Hello, I'm Teacher
Hi,
Casey,
and I'm teacher Sheila.
and we are here to discuss Let's Go books. These are Let's Go is a pattern book. Okay, so this is what we usually use for kids. Please, for teenagers and for adults, do not use Let's Go. This is since it's a pattern book. It's to teach students how to make a simple sentence. For those students who are having a hard time making simple sentences, these books will help them learn them. So for those who are 4 to 10 years old, always remember they're for pattern, grammar, or sentence structure. Okay? So for those who are 4 to 10, okay, you check the level of the student upon LAT. If the student's level is 0, start with beginner. Okay? And then so on. Level 1, let's go 1 until level 6. For teenagers, though, you have to gauge your students' level from 11, I mean, to 13, not really teenagers, but 11 to 13, you have to gauge the level first because those in level 3, some of them, sometimes for GLJ 1, for example, lower levels, I think they could already handle book 3
Mm-hmm.
because of the age, maybe. But for those whom you think Jill what do you mean? What do I mean? It encompasses 2 levels, okay? Because sometimes although they're level 2, they cannot handle the lessons in
Or,
book 4. Let's go 4. So it's good that you also know the books and you also know the lessons in the book so that you could adjust to the students' levels. It only is for levels 1 to 4. So 1 to 2, book 3, GLJ 3 and 4, you try to gauge the student. Okay? So it might overlap over here. 2 and 3 might overlap. Sometimes 3 could still be for book 3, depending on the student's level. You just have to write down the reason in your level test or level assessment result so that at least the Korean managers would also be guided. Okay, and you write down the appropriate books. Okay, so now let's move on to our Let's Go book. Wait for a while. Okay, so this is, I've uploaded Let's Go 2. Okay, so I think some of the students a lot of students are actually familiar with Let's Go books. They sometimes
yeah.
already use it in academy. So an
Mm-hmm.
alternative for Let's Go is with the same pattern. I mean, it's also simple sentence making and simple vocabulary. You could also use English time instead of Let's Go if they've already used Let's Go, but the recommended book for their level and the target for their level would be still be the same target as Let's Go. You try to switch to English time. Okay? So in Let's Go, usually we start off with this kind of page. Like there is a conversation. In my case, I divide the conversation. Usually it's between 2 people. So I'll read dialogue for one person and then let the student read the other one and then guide the student in reading and pronouncing the words. And sometimes we switch. How about you? What do you do?
For me, I do the same, but first I ask the student, "What do you do at school, or do you like your school?" Something simple questions like that, and then before we go on to
Based
the
on what
dialogue.
is
Yeah,
here
here.
on the heading. Yes. Okay.
Yes, because sometimes like in other lessons, there's location,
Mhm.
transportation. So I asked them first, do you know what location is? Do you know what transportation is? And do you have any idea like that? So we
So try to
talk
make them
about this
familiar
first.
with the topic first
Mm,
before you go to the
yeah,
conversations.
and then
Okay. And
conversation.
then if you could see, there are some expressions here that we need to learn. That's the focus of this
Mm-hmm,
page, actually.
mm-hmm.
So what do you do with this part? Do you practice it with your student and change? In my case, I change the information to information about the students sometimes.
Yeah.
Or it's here that you could teach alternative expressions since we encourage our tutors to teach alternative expressions instead of pretty good, like not so bad, not so good,
Mhm.
or awesome, or wonderful. Sometimes you can teach them
Mhm.
here. Do you do that too?
Yeah, I we practice this, and then before the end of the class, I ask him to say the expressions again, and then next on the next day,
Hmm.
we practice it again. Like I ask him, "How about you?" or "How are you?" something like that, and then goodbye,
So
see
they
you
use the
later.
expressions that they've learned here as
Yeah.
a review. Okay. Okay. And then here I have, well, we don't have the CD. So
Mm.
sometimes we don't really know the tune to the song. So in my case, sometimes I either ask the student to read or sometimes we
Mhm.
skip it altogether. Some students do not like reading so much. So in that case, we just skip. How about you? How do you handle
Um,
the song part?
there are some of my students they like singing, but there are some students who don't like singing. Like I don't want to sing. I know, something like that. Teacher, no,
Mhm.
something like that. So, for those students who like singing, we sing it. Like we make, hi, Scarlett, how are you? With the clapping of
So you
hands,
make your own
something like
tune.
that. Yes. And then, I let the student repeat it and just be familiar with the tune and with the words. And then, for those students who don't like to sing, we just read it, something like that.
Sometimes it can serve as an icebreaker, right? If
Yes.
the student likes to sing. However, for those who do
Mm-mm.
not like singing, sometimes you just skip it.
That's
Okay.
okay.
Or some students they have CDs when they
Mm.
buy the book, the hard copy of the book. There are CDs, so sometimes they know the tune. And sometimes it's a good thing because they
Mm.
know the tune, and then you can teach it to your other students.
Yes.
And it's good if you record the class because you can listen to the tune again. Oh, wait, I had this student in our class. She sang blah, blah, blah. So you can use it with your other students. But that's not really the focus, right? It's just like
Mm.
a part of the book to make the lesson a little bit fun. So then you move on to here. We have patterns, right?
Mhm.
So you start first. How do you handle this part of the book?
Well, at first we read the words first, like
Hmm.
raise the board. Okay, we go, and then we practice it with the whole sentence. And sometimes I try to cover the words, like
Mm.
here.
Yes.
Tell me the sentence. Look at the picture, and then what is the sentence for that picture? Something like that. So first, I let the student be familiar with the words, and then I let him um, say the sentence or tell me
Memorize.
the whole sentence. Yeah,
Hmm.
the memorize the whole sentence like that.
And then use it in complete sentences.
Mm.
Sometimes you can also teach other actions because this is about action, right?
Mhm.
And this is
Mhm.
present simple. So sometimes what I do the same thing. I make the student memorize the actions and then cover the words or the expressions. And then sometimes I change this one. Sometimes at home, or you
At
can
home.
change it
Mhm.
at the park to at the park.
Mhm.
So they learn other expressions, but do not for students who are uh, lower levels, do not overwhelm them with a lot of information. Maybe just two for at home and two for at the park, because sometimes they tend to
Mhm.
forget what is on the book if you try to
Mhm.
have a lot of activities. Okay, you engage your student first, right? So when you think that, okay, a student can handle more than two, then you can. Or sometimes for those who are really low level, I don't anymore. I stick to the four
Mhm.
examples here on the book. And then after that, this is another lesson, right? This kind of lesson, this isn't that is. In my case, I
Mhm.
had an experience with a low level student, so it's kind of a hard lesson. It was kind of hard
Mhm.
for me. It's a good thing that sometimes you know the Korean words for near and far,
Yeah.
or sometimes you use your camera, like when you hold it or when you can touch it, it's near. So if
Mhm.
I can touch
Mhm.
it, you use this is. And then if it's too far and I can touch it,
Like this.
yes, it's that. So try to utilize the camera here. And don't forget, it's good that the students learn vocabulary. They learn new words, but the focus here is this is and that is. Never lose sight of the focus that they're supposed to make the sentence pattern, not use the words or the new words that they learned. Okay, stick to the pattern. So sometimes, since your student also has a camera, you could use the things that you have around you.
Mm.
Okay, you can also ask your student to move if they're not using laptops. You can ask them to move their camera and then point to something that's far. And then it's far, so what you say, that's blah blah. This is blah blah. But you also have to learn that the focus here is singular nouns. Okay, do not confuse your student first, because later on there will be a lesson, these are and those are. So I think until your student has gotten like complete grasp of this is and that is, do not move on to these are and those are. So continue, try to think of other activities that you could do so that they could make sentences with this is and that is before you move on to another lesson. Okay,
Mhm.
the same after you've studied this phase, there is an exercise.
Mhm.
Okay, so sometimes in my case I make my student read and then answer, but if the level is low, I just do the question, read the question and let them answer. So here
Sure.
we're there. How do you guide your student in this kind of activity?
Here, because we already practiced the words here, so of course they are familiar with the picture and
Mhm.
how to say it in a complete sentence.
Mhm.
So, here I just asked the student, same with you, I asked the question and then I let the student answer. Like,
Mhm.
let's start something like that. So, what's this? Something like that, and then the student
A
will
way to
answer.
guide them, yes, a way to guide them is, okay, this is you.
Mm.
Is this near or far? You try to ask so that they would also know the
Mhm.
difference between this and that, and near and far. So sometimes you have to guide them that way. Look at this. Is this near, this one, or far? And then when they say far, so far, what do you say? This is or that is? Okay,
Mhm.
always try to guide your student and not answer for them. I think that's very important
Mhm.
so that they would know how to figure out which one, in which situation do we use this is, and in which situation do we use that is. Okay? And then it's the next activity I think is still with the same focus. It's just that this is question and answer. So you will teach them yes it is and no it isn't. Okay? But
Mhm.
in my case I let them make the question. For
Mm.
example, near, what's the question? Is this blank or is is that blank?
Is this?
Okay, just yeah. So like this is far. What do you say? Is this? Is that? So what's the question? Is that? Mm-hmm. Is this? Mm-hmm. Okay. So you can think of other activities, but try to concentrate on strengthening the focus. Concentrate on the focus of this is and that is. The same thing goes for all lessons. Okay, that you can come up with your own activities. I think Let's Go could be a very playful book because you could
Ah.
use your camera, right? You could use your
Mhm.
camera in making sentences, and then at least the students could relate to it because of the you could use the things that they have in their house or the things that they have in their bags, like that.
Mm.
Okay, maybe some people think a pattern book is kind of boring. I think it's up to you. I think it's up to
Yeah.
the tutor
Especially if
to how. Yes.
especially if your students are in grade school, like
Mhm.
first grade, second grade, something like that, because they love talking about what's in their bag. They love
Mhm.
talking about their pencil case, their pencils,
Their rooms, their
their razors.
houses.
Yeah, they love talking about that. So it's fun. It's fun.
Yes,
This book is.
it is actually a fun book, especially when the
Mhm.
student is cooperative. You could come up with a
Yeah.
lot of things. So
Mhm.
always try to think of a lot of ways to engage your student as much as
Mhm.
possible in the lesson because it's going to be a fun lesson. You will be surprised. You
Mhm.
will just think, I'm going to teach structure, I'm going to teach grammar, but it's not that.
Mhm.
It's always up to you and up to the student too. Okay, So
Mhm.
this part, if you could see, this time it's plural form. It's just the same thing.
Mhm.
Okay? So the presentation of the lessons in Let's Go, usually you have a conversation and then there's a grammar focus, there's the sentence pattern that you have to learn, and then there are words connected to whatever is the topic of the whole unit. Like this whole unit is about school. So if you've noticed, the things or the words that are used are all connected to school. So you could actually ask your student to think of other things that they use for school. Don't stick to like paper clips, clocks. What else do they have in their classrooms or stuff like that? So at least it could help with vocabulary, not just in the pattern, but also with the vocabulary. Let's Go is Let's Go's layout is like this. It's just that the focus, I think, changes with each book. The higher the level, the more difficult the focus is. Like maybe in level 4, there's we use some and any and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
in level 6, there are more difficult vocabulary and more difficult patterns, but the presentation is all the same. So if you
Mhm.
already know how to present the lesson for Let's Go, I think you just have to adjust a little bit in the degree of difficulty when you present the Let's Go books. So, any other tips for Let's Go? How to handle Let's Go?
Mm. Well, anyway, Let's Go is just like you have to be playful, just like we said, and be creative. Like show them everything you have on your table, and then they
Mm.
will show you what they have and what they see,
Mm.
and then um, they will, as long as they are familiar with the pattern, they will use that next time. And
Yes.
let's say, she got a new book, or she got a new doll like that. Your student got a new doll. Um,
They can use
the
the
student
patterns
will
they learn.
they will use, yes, like,
Mm.
this is my new doll, this is new, something like that. This is,
Mm.
her
Or
name
that is
is,
my new doll, yes.
that is my new doll,
Mm.
that is something like that. So just make it fun and
And
enjoyable.
always encourage your students to use the patterns that they learn.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, by the way, at the end of each chapter, you have the checkup. We might have a problem with listen and check. You just have to come up with your
Mm-hmm.
own sentences sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And then make the students uh, choose which one you used in the sentence, okay? So, just what Teacher Sheila said, it's always up to you how to make it as interactive as possible. Okay, this might be a pattern book, and don't forget this is a pattern book. So teach sentences. Focus on
Mm-hmm.
sentences rather than the vocabulary in the book. So as a recap, so this is sentence, okay, sentence structure. The focus is sentence structure or patterns, okay, for all levels. So it starts with at 4 until 13 years old, okay? And here we also have a guide in our LAT so we could check which book is appropriate for which level. But if the student has already used Let's Go and they do not want to use Let's Go anymore, you can always check out English Time.
English time.
Yes, because it's presented the same way. But I think that's all we have for Let's Go. Anything else?
Mm, no more.
Okay, I hope you have a fun time like we did when we taught Let's Go. That's all. Thank you. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.